Welcome back to Aliyah and Chill. I'm your host, and today we're exploring the contact sport known as Israeli driving, where traffic laws are more like gentle suggestions. Parking is a competitive art form, and your horn is considered essential safety equipment. Fair warning, this episode contains themes of road rage therapy, creative parking solutions, and the gradual realization that your driver's education was apparently preparation for a completely different planet. So there I was, fresh off the plane with my international driving license, ready to navigate the roads of the Holy Land. I'd driven in New York, Los Angeles, even Rome. How different could Israeli driving be? Famous last words. My first lesson came before I even got in the car. My Israeli friend Danny was giving me orientation. "Forget everything you learned about driving," he said seriously. "In America, you follow rules. In Israel, rules are starting point for negotiation." "What do you mean?" "Speed limit says 50. That means minimum 60, probably 70 if conditions permit. Red light, suggestion to slow down, parking space, any space you can fit your car without blocking emergency vehicles." That sounds illegal. Not illegal, creative. Israeli innovation applies to driving too. My first drive was like entering an alternate universe where physics work differently. I approached my first roundabout with American caution. Slow down, yield to traffic in the circle, signal properly. Wrong approach. Cars behind me started honking immediately. Someone actually got out of their car to ask if I was having a medical emergency. "The roundabout is clear," the concerned driver said. "Why are you waiting?" "I'm yielding to traffic." "What traffic? There are no cars. But the rules say..." "Rules are for driving school. This is real life. Go." I learned that Israeli roundabouts operate on confidence, not traffic laws. If you hesitate, you've already lost. The parking situation was my next education. In Tel Aviv, I spent 45 minutes looking for a legal parking space before realizing that legal was apparently a flexible concept. Israeli parking philosophies seem to be, if your car fits and doesn't block the fire department, it's probably fine. I watched in amazement as people parked, on sidewalks as long as wheelchairs could still pass, in spaces clearly marked no parking, apparently suggestions, at 45-degree angles when the space required 90 degrees. Double parked with phone numbers on windshields, in what I thought were traffic lanes, but turned out to be creative parking zones. My first parking ticket was educational. The meter maid explained Israeli parking enforcement philosophy. "You parked in disabled space," she noted, "but I only stepped away for 2 minutes. Disabled person might need space in 2 minutes." "Okay, that's fair. But what about that car?" I pointed to a vehicle literally parked on the sidewalk. "Different jurisdiction. I only handle parking spaces, not sidewalk violations." "And that one?" I indicated a car blocking a fire hydrant. "Fire department handles fire hydrant violations. So you can park anywhere as long as you know which agency handles which violations." Now you're learning Israeli parking strategy. The highway experience was like entering a NASCAR race where everyone forgot they weren't professional drivers. Speed limits appeared to be minimum suggestions, and lane changes happened with the frequency and unpredictability of Israeli elections. My GPS kept recalculating because Israeli drivers treated traffic predictions like weather forecasts. Interesting information, but not necessarily relevant to actual behavior. "In 500 meters, keep right," my GPS announced. I checked my mirrors, signaled, and began moving right. A motorcycle appeared from nowhere, weaving between cars at approximately the speed of light. Then a taxi decided my lane was preferable and moved over without signaling. A delivery truck joined the party, apparently convinced that being large gave it natural right-of-way. Recalculating, my GPS admitted in defeat. The honking culture required anthropological study. In most countries, horns are for emergencies. In Israel, horns are a communication system more sophisticated than Morse code. One short beep. Light is green. Move. 2 quick beeps. I know you from somewhere. 3 medium beeps. You're driving like my grandmother. Long sustained honk. I disagree with your entire existence. Rhythmic honking. I'm happy about something and want to share. Angry honking followed by hand gestures. This requires verbal discussion. I learned to interpret Israeli horn language better than some Hebrew dialects. The construction zones were permanent features of Israeli landscapes. Every road seemed to be under eternal improvement, with traffic cones that had apparently established permanent residency. Roadwork ahead for next 15 kilometers, the signs would say. This meant lanes will merge without warning. Speed limits will change every 200 meters. Workers may or may not be present. The work might be finished, ongoing, or planned for sometime next decade. GPS systems will have nervous breakdowns. I started planning routes based not on distance or time, but on probability of encountering fewer than 17 construction zones. The relationship between drivers and pedestrians required careful observation. In most countries, pedestrians have right-of-way. In Israel, pedestrians have suggestions of way, and both drivers and walkers engaged in complex negotiations at every intersection. I watched a grandmother with a shopping cart engage in what appeared to be diplomatic relations with a taxi driver at a crosswalk. Hand gestures were exchanged, positions were negotiated, and eventually both parties reached an agreement that allowed the grandmother to cross while the taxi maintained forward momentum. No traffic laws were technically followed, but everyone survived and seemed satisfied with the outcome. The gas station experience was culturally enlightening. In America, you pump your own gas and leave. In Israel, gas stations are social centers where people discuss politics, get car advice, and conduct business meetings. "Nice car," said the attendant while filling my tank. "Thanks, but you're driving it wrong." "Wrong how?" "Too polite. Israeli cars need assertive driving. You drive like you're asking permission." "I'm trying to be safe." "Safe is good, but timid is dangerous. Other drivers don't respect timid. Drive with confidence." I was getting automotive therapy from a gas station attendant. The learning curve was steep. After 6 months, I'd adapted. I could park in spaces that violated several laws of physics. My horn usage had increased by approximately 4,000%. I'd learned to interpret hand gestures as supplementary traffic signals. Construction zones no longer surprised me. They were just part of the landscape. I could change lanes in traffic that would have terrified my driving instructor. But I'd also discovered the beautiful chaos had its own logic. Israeli drivers were aggressive but not mean. They'd honk at you for being slow, then stop to help if your car broke down. They'd fight for parking spaces, then share jumper cables without question. My breakthrough moment came during a traffic jam on Highway 1. I was stuck between 2 trucks, sweating in the heat, when the driver next to me rolled down his window. "First time in Israeli traffic," he asked in English. "How did you know? You look too stressed. Relax. Traffic is life." We sit, we wait, we talk to strangers. Very social. He offered me water, started a conversation about American politics, and introduced me to the driver on the other side. By the time traffic cleared, I'd made 2 new friends and learned 3 new curse words in Hebrew. That's all for today's episode of Aliyah and Chill. Remember, Israeli driving teaches you that traffic laws are just the starting point for creative interpretation. And your horn is the most important safety feature in your car. And hey, if navigating Israeli roads while maintaining your sanity sounds more dangerous than actual military service, maybe it's time to call Easy Aliyah's VIP concierge service. We'll help you understand the unwritten rules of Israeli driving before you accidentally start an international incident at a roundabout. Until next time, drive with confidence, park with creativity, and remember, when in doubt, honk, everyone else is doing it.